This is the reason you keep getting eaten alive in your own backyard, while the internet keeps selling you gadgets that don't do a thing. Today, I want to hand you the roughly $2 fix that actually has science behind it, and then walk you through every cheap hack that holds up, along with every popular one that falls apart the moment you look closely. Most people get this exact thing backwards. When the bites won't stop, you reach for the loud, expensive, high-tech stuff, the bug zapper crackling away on the porch, the little ultrasonic gadget in the wall socket, the app somebody swore by on your phone. Almost none of it delivers what you think it does. And the genuinely cheap solutions sitting on the shelf happen to be the ones the CDC and the EPA actually stand behind. Let's get that sorted out for you. Before any of these fixes make sense, you need to see how a mosquito tracks you down, because every single method coming up works by snapping one link in that chain. A mosquito never just stumbles into you by accident, since it hunts in a sequence, stacking several senses one on top of the next. That first long-range signal is carbon dioxide, the CO2 you breathe out with every exhale, and the insect picks it up through neurons on its mouthparts, then follows that plume across a real distance, with some sources putting the range somewhere between 30 and 50 meters. One detail catches most people off guard, and it's that only the females ever bite, because they need a blood meal to produce their eggs. Once she closes the gap, smell takes over. Your skin odor, the lactic acid, the ammonia, and a handful of other compounds confirms that you're a human rather than, say, a cow pumping out the same carbon dioxide. At close range, heat, humidity, and vision guide that final approach and the landing itself. Here's the part that unlocks everything else, because these cues are synergistic, which is a fancy way of saying they multiply. Carbon dioxide combined with heat, combined with body odor, triggers a far bigger response than any one of those signals could manage alone. And the research untangling how mosquitoes blend those cues comes out of work by Connor McMenamin in Leslie Vosshall's lab at Rockefeller University. That one word, synergistic, is the whole secret hiding in plain sight. If the signals stack together to find you, then knocking out even one of them leaves you dramatically harder to locate. And that's precisely what the cheap fixes pull off. Let's begin with the cheapest one of them all. Before we even reach the $2 fix, there's a $0 one waiting, and it delivers more than anything else on this list. The CDC calls it tip and toss, and the logic behind it is brutal in its simplicity. Consider what a single female can do, because she'll lay up to about 100 eggs at a time, and she needs less than an inch of water to pull it off, roughly a bottle cap's worth. Those eggs can race from egg to biting adult in as few as 5 to 7 days, which means the problem regenerates faster than most people ever realize. Once a week, you walk the yard and you empty, scrub, turn over, or cover anything, cradling water, the old tires, the buckets, the bird baths, the flower pot saucers, the kids' toys abandoned out on the grass. You're not repelling the mosquitoes biting you right now. You're wiping out the entire next generation before a single one of them hatches. It costs you nothing. It strikes the root of the whole mess, and it sits at the top of the CDC's recommendation list. Not every bit of standing water is something you can simply pour out, though, and that's exactly where our $2 fix earns its keep. For the water you can't drain, the rain barrel, the pond, the clogged gutter, the low spot that always seems to hold a puddle, the answer carries the name BTI. That stands for Bacillus thuringiensis subspecies israelensis, which is a mouthful, so let me translate it into plain terms. BTI is a naturally occurring soil bacterium that works as a larvicide, meaning it kills the larvae, the baby mosquitoes, while they're still trapped in the water. You buy the stuff as a little floating dunk, and one dunk treats around 100 square feet of water surface, while it keeps working for roughly 30 days, which lands it squarely in that cheap couple of dollars per dunk range. Here's the part that makes it genuinely special, because according to the EPA, BTI stays non-toxic to people, pets, fish, birds, and bees. The toxin only switches on inside the specific alkaline gut of mosquito larvae and a couple of related insects, so it turns lethal for the thing biting you while staying harmless to basically everything you care about. Mosquito control programs have leaned on it for more than 30 years with no documented resistance. And a 2013 study went back and confirmed that all over again. Two honest catches come with it. First, it only works in standing water, and it only kills larvae, so it does absolutely nothing to the adult mosquito already circling your head, which is why you pair it with the tip and toss. Second, federal law says you keep it out of drinking water reservoirs. That gives you a solid foundation, since you dump the water you can and treat the water you can't. Now let's talk about defending your actual body, because that's a completely different fight. Here's one that runs you almost nothing and slips most people's minds entirely, and it's the humble box fan or oscillating fan. Mosquitoes turn out to be weak flyers, clocking a flight speed of only somewhere around 1 to a few miles per hour. So when you aim a fan at your seating area, two useful things happen at once. Moving air makes it physically harder for them to fly in and land, and it scatters that CO2 and body odor plume they were riding straight toward you, which means you jam their navigation and ground their aircraft in a single move. The foundational research on airflow and mosquitoes comes out of Michigan State University. In field data from Hoffman and Miller there, mosquito trap catches fell as wind speed climbed, and right around 1 mile per hour of airflow, the catch dropped by roughly 50%. A box, oscillating, or tower fan handles this job better than a ceiling fan, and the bonus is that it keeps you cool while it keeps you bite-free. Two more free adjustments deserve a look before we reach the sprays, and the first one, color, genuinely surprised me. Back in February of 2022, a peer-reviewed study landed in Nature Communications out of Jeffrey Riffel's lab at the University of Washington, and his team tracked over 1.3 million mosquito flight paths to reach their conclusion. What they found is that once a mosquito smells your carbon dioxide, it steers toward specific colors: red, orange, black, and cyan, while it mostly shrugs off green, blue, purple, and white. The reason traces back to your skin, which gives off a long wavelength red-orange signal no matter your complexion. Riffel put it this way, and I'm quoting him: "The shade of your skin doesn't matter. We are all giving off a strong red signature. Filtering out those attractive colors in our skin, or wearing clothes that avoid those colors, could be another way to prevent a mosquito biting. Wearing light colors like white, green, or blue won't hand you a guarantee, but it does stop you from actively advertising yourself as a target. Timing is the second free adjustment, since different mosquitoes clock in at different hours. The Aedes species bite during the day, while the ones carrying malaria, the Anopheles, along with the Culex mosquitoes, tend to peak at dusk and through the night, so knowing when you're most exposed lets you plan around it. If you want a genuine physical wall between you and them, screens and netting stay safe, non-toxic, and effective, and the CDC recommends screens right alongside air conditioning. If you want something on your skin, and you want the budget-friendly, plant-based route, exactly one natural option earns an actual recommendation from the CDC, and that's oil of lemon eucalyptus, which you'll spot on labels as OLE or by its active ingredient PMD. This one delivers because in that landmark 2002 study I'll circle back to in a second, a lemon eucalyptus repellent held up for around 2 hours of protection, and a separate 2015 study found one lemon eucalyptus product performed comparably to DEET against one mosquito species. Here's the critical distinction though, because the CDC recommends against using pure, unformulated lemon eucalyptus essential oil. The registered OLE product isn't the same thing as the raw essential oil off a shelf, since that pure oil never went through the validated safety and efficacy testing and carries no EPA registration, and you also keep it away from children under 3. For the sake of comparison, DEET still wears the crown as the gold standard. In that definitive study, Fraden and Day, published in the New England Journal of Medicine on July 4th of 2002, a roughly 24% DEET formula delivered about 5 hours of complete protection. The dosage math runs like this, where about 7% DEET buys you around 90 minutes, 30% stretches up to roughly 10 hours, and pushing above 50% adds no extra time whatsoever. When you're traveling somewhere with real disease risk, that's the one you reach for. We've covered what works, and it stays mostly cheap. So now let me save you some money by tearing down the stuff that doesn't, because plenty of it gets sold to you the hardest. Let's start with the loudest offender, the bug zapper, which simply does not work on mosquitoes. Jonathan Day, a medical entomologist at the University of Florida, said it flat out back in 1997, and I'm quoting him here, "They are a total waste of money. In fact, bug zappers actually make things worse by attracting more mosquitoes into your yard, and they end up killing thousands of beneficial insects that don't bother people." The numbers back his frustration, because across studies of what these devices actually kill, mosquitoes accounted for less than 0.25% of the catch, and one study logged just 31 biting insects out of about 14,000 killed. So you're mostly electrocuting harmless bugs. Ultrasonic repellents come next, the plug-in gadgets and phone apps promising to drive mosquitoes off with sound. A Cochrane review back in 2010 combed through the field studies and concluded these devices have no effect on preventing mosquito bites and should not be recommended. The American Mosquito Control Association put it just as bluntly, stating, "The fact is that these devices just do not work. Marketing claims to the contrary. Some studies even hint they might increase biting, so go ahead and delete the app." The folk remedies fare no better under scrutiny. Taking vitamin B, the B one called thiamine, to repel mosquitoes has been studied, and it shows no effect at all. Eating garlic got tested in a double-blind study with 49 participants, and it produced no significant effect either. Dryer sheets ride on a single real study that actually tested fungus gnats rather than mosquitoes, which then got widely misreported. Here's a sneaky one worth calling out: Avon's Skin So Soft bath oil, that classic grandma hack, which protected for 9.6 minutes in that 2002 New England Journal study, not hours, minutes, and that figure applies to the bath oil specifically, since Avon does make actual registered repellents that are a completely different product. The houseplant myth earns its own moment, because you'll find it absolutely everywhere. You've scrolled the lists a dozen times, the ones promising you can buy a plant, park it on the patio, and watch the mosquitoes vanish, and it just doesn't operate that way. Clemson Extension points to a meta-analysis of 62 studies, and the takeaway is that for these plants to accomplish anything, the leaves have to be crushed, or the essential oils rubbed directly onto your skin. A plant simply sitting there in a pot never releases enough to protect you, and even when you do crush the leaves and rub them on, the effect fades fast, lasting somewhere around 30 minutes. One famous example makes the point: the so-called mosquito plant, marketed across the US starting in the 1980s, which got debunked within about a decade by studies at multiple universities. Despite the name it carries, Colorado State confirms it doesn't actually contain citronella oil at all. Worth one warning here too, since scented and citronella geraniums turn toxic for dogs and cats, according to the ASPCA. The plants can be pleasant to have around, but you should never count on them as your defense. I want to play this one fair because a single popular DIY hack sits in murkier territory than pure myth, and that's the homemade sugar and yeast trap. You combine sugar, yeast, and water in a bottle. The yeast ferments and pumps out CO2, and that carbon dioxide pulls mosquitoes in. Here's the honest part, because the science actually shows it does attract and catch them, and researchers have used yeast-generated CO2 as a real stand-in for industrial CO2 inside professional mosquito traps, where it performs as legitimate bait, and painting the trap black even sharpens the effect, since mosquitoes gravitate toward dark surfaces. The catch mirrors the bug zapper problem exactly. That trap keeps pumping out CO2, the precise signal that lures mosquitoes toward your yard in the first place, so it may draw more of them in than it ever kills. Evidence that it cuts down the bites landing on you personally stays weak, so treat it as a fun experiment or a way to monitor what's buzzing around, never as your real protection. If disease prevention is your actual goal, skip the DIY trap entirely and lean on registered repellents and nets instead. Treating mosquitoes as nothing more than an itchy nuisance comes easy, but the reason all this science exists is that they rank as the deadliest animals on Earth through the diseases they ferry around. Malaria still claimed around 610,000 lives in 2024, according to the World Health Organization, and 2024 stands as the worst year on record for dengue, with the WHO receiving reports of over 14 million cases, and Brazil alone reporting over 10 million of them. So the humble fan, the water you tipped out, the little BTI dunk, none of these are merely comfort measures, because on a global scale, they're the very same tools of prevention. Let's circle back to where we started. You keep getting feasted on because you've been sold the loud, expensive stuff, the zappers, the ultrasonic gadgets, the apps, and almost none of it accomplishes anything. The fix you've been missing isn't high-tech in the slightest. Since you dump your standing water for free, drop a $2 BT. I dunk into the water you can't dump, aim a fan at your chair, and wear light colors. And if you want something on your skin, you reach for CDC-endorsed oil of lemon eucalyptus, or DEET when the stakes climb high. Cheap, boring, and backed by the CDC, the EPA, and the New England Journal of Medicine beats expensive, exciting, and useless every single time. And that's the trade you want to make. If this spared you from wasting money on a bug zapper, do me a favor and pass it along to the one person you know who still swears by theirs, and stay bite-free out there.